Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath, Shyamakund Radhakund Deepa Vardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Naam ki jai, Shri Namdev Mayapur Naam ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Yamuna Mai ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Samadhi Bhakti ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga.
He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bando Jagapade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Apta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Trishakanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hansha Kapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Ditana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Continuing reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. I believe we're on the 18th chapter, is this correct? Does anybody know which text? What's that? 54. Ah, very nice. No, we definitely read past this because I remember. Where is it? Radha Damodar was giving class and he read this text 58 because I specifically asked him to reread it again. Alright, start on 54, it's good to me. These are very nice shlokas. Text 54. Brahmabhut prasannatmana shojatina kangshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. 55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality as He is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord, by such devotion he can enter into the kingdom of God. 56. Sarva karmanya pisada kurvano madhyapashrayah mat prasadadavapnoti shashvatam padam avyayam. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. 57. Chetasa sarva karmani mayi sanyasya matpadaha buddhi yogam upashritya matchitasa tatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Text 58. Matchita sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi atachetvam ahankaran nashroshyasi vinangshasi. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Text 59. Yadahankaram ashritya nayotsya iti manyase mityaisha vyavasayaste prakritistvam nayokshati. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. Text 60. Subhava jena kanteya nibadha svena karmana kartum nechasya yanmohat karishyasya vashopitat. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. 61. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshe arjuna jishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. 62. Tam eva sharanam gacha sarva bhavena bhadata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. O Sayana Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. 63. Iti te jnanam akyatam guyat guyataram maya vimrishyaita rasheshena yatechasi tathakuru. Thus I have explained to you the most confidential of all knowledge. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. 64. Sarvagyuyatamam bhuya shinu me paramam jaha ishtosi me dridham iti tato vukshami te hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you the most confidential part of knowledge. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So we'll go to text 54, we'll read the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahmabhuta stage, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation, called Brahmabhuta, openness with the Absolute. With being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto him. In the absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor. Yet the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or gain because he is full in service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world someone is higher and someone is lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is the Brahmabhuta stage. And this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish, and the idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria. And the senses are like broken serpent's teeth. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, so there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha, or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. Maharaj, if you'd like to make some comments, we'd love to hear. So, very pivotal verses spoken by Lord Krishna, the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Many times we hear Krishna saying he's speaking confidential knowledge, and then here he's speaking the most confidential knowledge, including with the summation of the Bhagavad Gita, which results in surrender to Lord Krishna. Prabhupada so often points out that many scholars, many different people interpret the Bhagavad Gita and translate it for sense gratification. They take away the essence, the meaning, and apply some way of looking at it, that it's all just, you have to look at the different themes and the points that are there, and apply it to this part of life or that part of life, not taking it absolute as it is. But as Srila Prabhupada's presenting it as it is, and as he's following and living that, it becomes very real and approachable. And Srila Prabhupada was so great, he never asked us to do anything he wasn't doing himself. To control our senses, to engage fully in Krishna's service, to chant the holy names constantly, to be wrapped in the attention of Krishna. Everything that he was doing himself, and from doing this, he's developed, that realization, that connection. Of course, he's a Nitya Siddha. He always has this connection with Krishna, but he's a living example to show us how to actually follow that also, that it is possible. And Krishna here is describing what it's like when one's on the spiritual platform. One neither laments nor hankers for anything. When one is firmly fixed in that spiritual state, he's always joyous, he's always blissful, he's always cognizant of his spiritual self, of his relationship with the Lord. So what's the question to lament or hanker over something? Everything that comes is just an opportunity to serve and glorify the Lord. Whether it's some difficulty that arises in our life or some seemingly favorable circumstance, it's another opportunity to use as a platform to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada, he made a very significant point in the purport. He says, without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto Him. So many people take to this concept of becoming one with the Lord. But if we become one with the Lord in every respect, there's no separation. How can you render service? Without that distinction, there's no love, there's no reciprocation. So this is what the devotee is thriving on, is doing something to please the Lord and receiving the merciful reciprocation from the Lord. In the 4th chapter, Krishna says, Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stathai vipajamyaham. He says, I reward my devotees according to their degree of surrender. So that the degree of our surrender of serving Krishna, He reciprocates with us accordingly. And we may surrender, how do you say, like, terms of surrender, full dependence, and fully establishing this relationship with Krishna, it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen with just one flip. It's a prolonged journey where we have to surrender more and more and more. So, we can all relate. We come to the temple. It's a big step to just come here. That's a big surrender. Then to shave up your head, that's, a big surrender. To put on a dhoti, that's big surrender. But we can accept all the externals, but still internally we don't have that mood of surrender, of willing to transform and change our lives and accept whatever the Lord brings. So this is how we should always pray to the Lord, to please use me as an instrument. When Prabhupada first came to America, he wrote this poem, which it's in the SSR. If everybody's read it, if they haven't, they probably should. It's very inspirational, especially for preaching and going out to distribute books in random obscure places. Because Prabhupada's like, I don't know why you brought me to America, to this hellish place. Everybody's completely controlled by the lower modes of material nature. But for some reason you brought me here, so you must have some purpose. So I'm like a puppet in your hands. Please make me dance. Make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. So this is the mood that I'm just an instrument in the Lord's hands, and He's there to carry out my will. And without the proper conception of oneness, is just this, is that I am an instrument of the Lord, and the Lord can work through me to deliver His grace. Whereas the improper oneness is, in terms of this impersonalist merging with the Lord and giving up our independence, and then there's not this ever unfolding, loving relationship of servitude that can develop. And Prabhupada also pointed out in the purport that, which is referring to another verse that Krishna mentioned, but the person on the spiritual platform, he sees stone and gold are of equal value. So, ultimately, all these things we could see are from the material energy, so there's no inherent value in one thing or the other, such as money. You get so much paper money, but why does the paper money have value? It's only because we apply a certain merit, a certain denotation to it. Because in actuality, it's just a piece of paper. So because everybody buys into that belief, then it has a certain kind of power. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper. So similarly, the person who's on that spiritual platform has this vision. So Srila Prabhupada, he exemplified this, where many devotees would give him gifts, and he was unattached to the opulence of the gifts. He would accept the gifts as gestures of love and accept it. And by accepting it, these persons are making benefit because they're giving something to the Lord, something of their hard-earned fruits of labor. And one specific instance, Prabhupada was wearing a watch. It was a nice watch. And somebody gifted him another watch. He took off his watch and he gave it to somebody else as prasad. And he took on this watch. And then somebody gave him another watch, which was a $5,000 watch, really, really nice. And he accepted this one. And then somebody gave him another watch, which was much cheaper, $100. And Prabhupada took off the $5,000 watch and gave it to somebody else and accepted the $100 watch. He just wanted something that could tell the time that helps in service to the Lord. So similarly, yes, we see gold and dirt as the same, but we have to see the inherent value of how it can be used in devotional service. That is the value of things in the material world, of how it can be directly engaged in service of the Lord. Because we're not out for just renunciation of everything altogether. Proper utilization of renunciation is yukta vairagya, which means engaging certain objects in the service of the Lord. And by doing so, we won't accrue the reactions that comes with dealing with such things. And the examples given, Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports earlier that there's a cashier working at a business. I don't know if anybody else has ever done that, but I was a cashier one time. You count so much money. At the end of the day, your fingers are black and green. It's dirty. Money is one of the filthiest things there is. Anyways, you count all this money, but it's not yours at the end of the day. But you get your allotted quota to take home to provide for yourself. So one could say this is unfair. I'm doing all this work, I'm counting all this money, but I'm not getting the results. But if a thief or burglar comes in and steals all the money, you're not responsible. You don't take the hit. So similarly, when we're doing pure devotional service for the Lord is taking the reactions of our karma and everything that comes with it. He's also giving us what we need to maintain ourselves and mercy to sustain ourselves. And there's one other point that I wanted to highlight that Prabhupada mentioned in the purport is that, which this is actually alluding to a verse from the Brahma Samhita. It says, the highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. So that's what Krishna is saying here, is that he is equally disposed to every living entity. So on the spiritual platform, you see that there's living entities occupying different vessels. In one of these other verses, I actually was reading it during the class yesterday, text 63, I think. No. Just read it. Anyways, Krishna describes, text 61. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of the living entities. Who on this spiritual platform See, whenever